share with you a very strange medrash. Thank you. I'd like to share with you a very strange medrash. Last year, Parshas Vayishlach, like after Mishmar, after the Mishmar shir, like a couple of guys sitting around the table, and I shared this idea of something that I learned last year. But if anyone here happened to have been there, it could be that some of the Shanabek guys were there. Could be this whole Sikha will be a much more expanded explanation of this medrash. But try to listen carefully. It's a very strange medrash. Here we go. V'Yaakov nasa Sukkota. Let me first explain. At the very end of the whole, there was a build-up to the first few years of the parsha of Yaakov finding out about what's going on with Esav and preparing to meet Esav and being scared and then having this wrestling match, and then the next morning and then he does meet Esav and there's the whole encounter with Esav, etc., etc., etc. And then at the very end of the encounter with Esav, right before the parsha moves on to other stories, it says Esav went to Seir. He went his way. Yaakov nasa Sukkota. Yaakov went to Sukkot, the name of the place. So here's the medrash. V'Yaakov nasa Sukkota. Kama shanim asa Avinu Yaakov b'Sukkot. How long was Yaakov Avinu in Sukkot? How long was he there? Rabbi Abba Amar, Yud Chet Chodesh. Rabbi Abba says he was there for 18 months. Sukkot, Ubayit, Sukkot. Sukkot, house, and Sukkot. That's it. This is a strange medrash. Ube Beit El Shisha Chodashim. And he was in Beit El for 6 months. Rabbi Brachya b'shem Reb Levi Amar, Rabbi Brachya in the name of Reb Levi said, Kol otan chodashim she'asa b'Beit El, haya mechabed et Esav b'oto doron. The entire time that Yaakov was in Beit El, he was honoring Esav with that gift, meaning the gift that he gave him. For all the months that he was in Beit El, he was still honoring Esav with that gift. Rabbi Avin b'shem Reb Chunya Omer, Tisha shanim haya mechabed et Esav b'oto doron. Rabbi Avin in the name of Reb Chunya said, for 9 years, Yaakov was honoring Esav with that gift. Rabbi Pinchas b'shem Rabbi Abba Amar, Pinchas in the name of Rabba said, Kol otana shanim she'asa Yaakov Avinu b'Beit El, lo nimna milenasech. All the years that Yaakov was in Beit El, he did not refrain from pouring a libation. A libation is an offering of wine that's poured on the mizbech, right? Most of the, when you listen to Korbanot, when the laning, right? V'nisacheha, v'nisko, these words, it means a nesech is a libation. It's a pouring, a wine libation, a type of offering. So it says, Reb Pinchas in the name of Reb Abba said that all the years that Yaakov was in Beit El, which we have a machloket about before, if it was 6 months or 9 years, Yaakov never didn't libate. He never didn't offer a wine libation. I guess every day, I suppose, he offered a wine libation. Amar Rabbi Chanan, Rabbi Chanan said, Kol mi shehu yodea kama nisuchim nisech Yaakov Avinu. Anyone who knows how many libations Yaakov Avinu libated, anyone who knows how many libations Yaakov Avinu offered, Beit El, in Beit El, Yodea lechashev et mei Tveria. Anyone who knows how many libations Yaakov Avinu offered in Beit El knows how to calculate the waters of Tveria. End of Midrash. It's a very strange Midrash. So we're going to go on a bit of a journey before we come back to the words of the Medrash. We're going to start by asking a simple question about the Parsha, about this Sukkot place. As I said, it's the very end of the whole encounter with Esav. It says that Yaakov went to Sukkot. The pasuk is very problematic, and it's literally the very end of the section. We know well that the Torah is divided. We talk about chapters, prakim. These prakim were set up by whoever divided up the Tanakh, the Christians. They gave chapter headings. We accepted them, big deal, as long as we define things. But when we say a perek, a section of the Torah, we mean from space to space. That's a section. That's what we really mean by a parsha. Section. And the whole section of the encounter with Esav is one long parsha, and the closing line of it. I'll read the last two psukim of it, which is basically what I said before. Vayashav bayom hahu Esav l'darko Seir. Esav went his way to Seir on that day. V'Yaakov nasa Sukkota. Yaakov traveled to Sukkot. Vayiven lo bayit, and he built himself a house. Ulemiknehu asa Sukkot, and for his, how do you translate mikneh? Cattle. His cattle, his livestock. Okay, what's the shorish of the word mikneh? Right, it means like possess, so it sort of means possessions. But whatever, for his mikneh, for his livestock. Ulemiknehu asa Sukkot, and for his livestock he made Sukkot. We all know what a sukkah is, right? He made sukkahs for them. I don't think they decorated them. He made sukkahs. Al Kain, therefore, kara shem hamakom Sukkot. Therefore, he called the name of the place sukkahs. This is odd. This is a strange passage. From a number of standpoints. First of all, the reason he's calling this place Sukkot is because of what you call the makeshift shelter that he built for his livestock. He called it barn because he built a barn there. Could you imagine if places got named for reasons like that? I live in a town that's called Bunch of Houses. It doesn't make any sense. What's more, the pasuk explicitly says that he built a house for himself, and he built a sukkah for his livestock. Therefore, he named the place Sukkahs. It's a very, very odd pasuk. I don't have to state the question. And that's the closing line of the whole story with Esau. That's like the end. End of scene. Yaakov naming a place Sukkot because he built some kind of, you can picture there's some poles and, he built these shelters, these like makeshift lean-tos, whatever they are, for his livestock to live in these little semi-outdoor barns. So he named the place after these wonderful structures. He named it Sukkot.
Like his animals.
What does it mean? What does it mean? Well, if he really liked his animals, he would have built them the house. He built sukkahs for his animals. So to answer that question, we have to ask another question, which is, the whole scene with Esav seems a bit odd. I want you to picture yourself being one of Yaakov's kids. You've never met Uncle Esav. You were born in the home of your grandfather, an odd character. And it's a big, busy family, it's a wealthy family. And you live, and you know from your father, from what he tells you, even though your mothers have never been there either, that you're really from a different land. You're from the land of Canaan, and that you're the bearer of some promise, and you have some special belief system, and you're taught that, and you're raised by it. You're one of Yaakov's kids, Reuben, Shimon, Yisachar, whoever you are. You're one of Yaakov's kids, and you're part of that family. It's a very special family. And now it's time to travel back, and all the adults seem to agree, and you agree, and you're on your way back. And Uncle Esav, as you understand, is a pretty scary guy. I mean, look at your father. Look at how he's reacting. Okay, all right, you guys go here, you guys here, we're going to divide everyone up, and this is what happens. There's going to be an attack, and chas v'shalom, half the family might get wiped out, but if they do, then you can escape, and you're starting to get scared. this is terrifying. And then the messengers come back. There's 400 men traveling with him. 400 is the Chumash's way of saying a lot. Where the number 400 appears in Chumash, it's a different shir. It just means lots of men, and it's scary. And now, what happens when they meet? When they meet, and you're watching this, you're one of the kids in the family, and Yaakov sets up the camp very specifically, and you see him bowing down, and you know he's terrified. He's been up all night, he's been pacing, he's been davening, running to and fro. Well, they all come forward, we bow down to Esav, and Esav says, who are all these people? Says to Yaakov. Yaakov says, well, we wanted to find favor in your eyes. So Esav says, nah, I don't need any big gift, because Yaakov had prepared this huge gift for him with all this livestock. And he says, what was all that? He said, oh, that was a gift for you. He said, I don't need a gift. I have plenty. I have plenty, my brother. You keep what's yours. And Yaakov says, no. If I found favor in your eyes, please take my offering, because you're a lord to me. Take the blessing that I'm bringing to you. Take the present that I'm bringing to you. Because God has been gracious to me. I have everything. And he really he nudged him. And Esav takes the present. And then Esav says to him, he says, let's go together. I'll go in front of you. And Yaakov says, no, he says, my Lord knows, Esav, you know that children are, the children are weak, I got lots of livestock, it's dangerous for me to start rushing ahead. You go, you ever know why don't you go ahead, I'll travel at my own slow pace. I'll catch up with you later, he says. So Esav says, well, let me send some guards with you, let me send some people to accompany you, it's only right. And Yaakov says, no, it's okay. And Esav goes. And Esav, okay, goodbye, and Esav goes. And also, I've left out the beginning of it. When Esav first saw Yaakov, he ran over and he hugged him and he kissed him and they cried. But what's this whole dialogue? It's like pleasant, small talk. Oh, how are you doing? They hug each other, they cry. Who are all these people? Oh, it's a gift. Oh, it's so nice of you. Oh, I don't need it. Oh, please take it. Oh, wow, these are all your children. This is wonderful. Can I go with you? No, please. Okay, goodbye. We're all sitting there. Think about this conversation. Now, what do you think of your father at this point? He seems like a nice guy to me, Uncle Asa. Doesn't seem so bad. He seems like a nice guy. I mean, and they seem to like it. They seem happy to see him too. He's very polite, extremely polite. Offering to travel, offering that, turning down a gift. It seems wonderful. What was Abba so terrified about? Maybe there was some old fight. I don't know. I don't see anything. I kind of like the guy. Is that what happened? Was the whole thing anticlimactic? Does the Torah include this small talk? Just to tell us that it was anticlimactic? Is that the whole point? It's actually a pretty boring conversation. Nothing happens. Where's the fight? Where's the bringing up the old wounds and, challenges? Where is it? And nothing there. Oh, thank you. Oh, it's very nice. No thank you. So I'd like to suggest to you that this encounter with Esav, precisely for this reason, is extremely dangerous. Chazal tell us that every time our sages would go to Rome, they would study this parsha in depth. They would study the details of this meeting. Very, very dangerous meeting. And Yaakov understood the danger. And that's what the last pasuk is all about. There were two statements made in this whole thing, one by Yaakov, one by Esau, about their possessions. When Esau initially turned down the gift, he said to Yaakov, Vayomer Esav, Yesh li rav. I have plenty. When Yaakov is pressing him to take it, he says, Kachnat birchati asher huvat lach. Take my blessing that has been brought to you, ki chanani Elokim, because God has graced me, v'chi yesh li kol. I have everything. Each one of these two men describes his relationship to his wealth, two wealthy men. Esau describes his wealth, his relationship to his wealth, as I have a lot. Yaakov describes his relationship to his wealth as I have everything. Now, does anyone have everything? Is there anyone in the world who has everything? Of course not. Not even close. Now, obviously, we're not idiots. We know what it means. It means I have everything I need. Esau was probably even wealthier than Yaakov. Did he not have everything? What's the difference between I have a lot and I have everything? I have a lot means I have a lot. I could do with more. And it's about the quantity of what I have. It's not about its function. I have a lot. I have everything is actually not about the quantity of what I have. Because it's absurd if it is. No one has everything. I have everything means it's about the function of what I own. All of my needs are filled. So I have everything. In fact, right after, the first pasuk after our Sukkot pasuk, which we'll finish with in a moment, it says, Vayavo Yaakov Shalem ir Shem. And Yaakov came whole to the city of Shem. So what does it mean, whole? So Rashi quotes a medrash. What does whole mean? Shalem begufo, he was whole with his body. Shenit barapeh mitzalato, that he was healed from his limb. Shalem b'mamono, shalo chaser klum mikoloto daron. And he was whole in his money, that he wasn't missing anything from the whole gift he gave Esau. Shalem b'torato, shalo shachach tamado b'beit Lavan. And he was also whole in his Torah, that he didn't forget anything in the house of Lavan. The three things a person needs: his health, his possessions, and his wisdom. You have them all. Now, how could he be whole in his money if he gave this huge gift to Esau? Must be missing something. Answer is no. Because he still had everything he needed after giving the gift to Esau as well. He was just as whole after giving the gift as he was before. Because his wholeness, his having everything, had nothing to do with how much he had. It had to do with the fact that his needs were filled. His needs are filled, he has everything. So what's so dangerous about this meeting? What's dangerous about this meeting is that Esau has a very different value system from us. And Yaakov understood that the fact that Esau's hugging him and kissing him and being nice, and it's wonderful, and they're getting along with each other, is very dangerous. It's very dangerous because the people in his family will look at him and say, hey, we could get along with him, we could live together, this is family, we have a lot in common. And sometimes Esau's approach to us is what Esau's approach was when Yaakov first took the blessings and he said, I'm going to kill him. That's sometimes Esau's goal, or like his grandson Amalek. And sometimes Esau's approach is to hug us and kiss us and say, we have so much in common and it's so comfortable, and why not live together? And it's just as dangerous. So Yaakov, the closing line of this whole encounter is Yaakov sending a message to his family. He says, we have us and we have possessions. We, human beings, the family, we go in a house. A house is a permanent dwelling. The possessions, what's a sukkah? It's a temporary dwelling. We all know that. It's a dirat arai. We learned that in first grade. Possessions are not permanent. Possessions are temporary. He sends the message to his family. We have a house, the possessions are temporary. And to stress the point, he names the place temporary dwellings after what he did to his possessions. To send, because the message he was sending them was that possessions are secondary. They're tafel, they're not ikar, they're not the main thing. And that was the message he had to send them. Because the yeshli rav mentality of Esav, I can always have more, is dangerous. Yaakov wants to make sure that his family has the right values. So he stresses that to his family. Go back to our wacky midrash. Yaakov went to Sukkot. I'm going to go through the midrash again. Yaakov went to Sukkot. How many years did he do there? Tells us how many years he did. It's disputed about the years. But the opening line of this midrash is about the fact that Yaakov traveled to Sukkot. And then it goes into this discussion of the fact that Yaakov kept honoring Esav with that gift. The fact that Esav takes the gift and Yaakov gives the gift is representative of the fact of this difference in values. Esav could always have more. Yaakov is still whole even after giving the gift. Yaakov still has everything even after giving the gift, because of their different definition of their relationship to their possessions. Let's go to the end of the midrash, and the whole thing will come clear. Whoever knows how many libations Yaakov libated in Beit El will know how to calculate the waters of Tiberia. What does that possibly mean? There's a Gemara in Bava Batra, Daf Ayin Daled Amud Bet. Which talks about the Livyatan. You know the Livyatan? Everyone hear the Livyatan? Livyatan, this big fish, beast that will be killed at the end of days. Well, it talks about this big animal, this big fish, and it talks about says everything Kodesh Baruch Hu created. He created male and female, and then it goes into the Livyatan. Second. It says here, it brings a Braita, in the context of the discussion. The discussion is pretty esoteric, so I'll just get to the Braita. It says like this, Tani Nami Hachi, supports something in the Gemara, Yarden Yotzei Ma'arat Pamyas, the Jordan River begins at the cave, it's a spring that begins at the cave of Pamyas, which is what we call today Banyas, Umahalech Beyama Shel Sivchi, and it goes through this little, smaller body of water called Yama Shel Sivchi, Uvi Yama Shel Tveria, and in the Yam of Tveria. Umikgalgel v'liyored liyam gadol, and then it continues to flow, and it flows out to the Great Sea. Umikgalgel v'liyored ad shemegia lepiv shel Livyatan, and it continues to flow until it gets to the mouth of the Leviathan, Livyatan. Now, what's Yama Shel Tveria, the Sea of Tveria? Tveria sits on a large body of water called the Kinneret. The Gemara is referring to the Kinneret. It's calling it Yama Shel Tveria. Okay? Now, Tosfot over there says something interesting. Tosfot says, Shemagia lefiv shel Livyatan. How does the Jordan River, if it's flowing through other bodies of water, retain its identity? So Tosfot says, Eino mitarev b'chol otan mayim. It does not mix in with the water that it flows through. As is expressed in Bereshit Rabbah, as it says in Bereshit Rabbah, when it mentions this fact, it says, is it a miracle? Meaning, you think it's a miracle? Amar Rabbi Yochanan, al titama, don't be surprised, hadein yardena de avar b'mei Tveria v'lo mitare. He's talking about something else where there's two waters that didn't mix, and he says, don't be surprised at this. meaning it's not a miracle. Look, the Jordan passes through the Kinneret, the Mei Tveria, and it doesn't mix in. Now what does that mean? I'll tell you an interesting scientific fact. This is a fact, you can actually see it visually because of the slight change in the color of the water, because of the depth. The Jordan River actually flows through the Kinneret, and it doesn't mix. You can put something and it'll float through it. The currents are such that the way the currents run, the Jordan actually retains most of its water flowing through the Kinneret. And you can actually see a strip in the Kinneret. You can see this stripe, which is a slightly different color, that runs the length of the Kinneret, which is actually, it's not a miracle. There's some scientific explanation for it, but the Jordan River actually, like if you took like a paper boat or something and like put it at the Jordan, you could see something float along the Jordan through the Kinneret and out the other side. It's a scientific fact. The Midrash is not claiming it's a nace. It's actually saying, look, it's not a miracle. This is a fact we know happens. Okay. So what does this mean? It's counterintuitive that one body of water could flow through another one and not mix. It doesn't seem to make sense to us. Libations are brought every single day, part of the carbon tamid. Carbon tamid has a nesach with it. So I'd like to suggest that what this midrash is saying is, it starts off by saying to us that Yaakov built Sukkot. Sukkot by Sukkot. So basically his main message was Sukkot. And that he continued to honor Esav. It says that he continued to honor Esav with that gift. Continue to give honor to Esav. So you might ask yourself, the whole time he's in Beit El. Beit El is a place of tefillah. It says that the whole time he was in Beit El, which is a place where we daven to Hashem, Beit El, the whole time he's in Beit El, he's still giving honor to Esav. So you might say to yourself, excuse me, you're giving honor to Esav, and at the same time you're davening to Hashem? How does that work? So you say, you don't understand. Every single day, lo nimna, we said, the whole time he was in Beit El, that was the next line of the Medrash, he never didn't bring a nesach. What does that mean? He worshipped Hashem every single day. Morning and evening. Every single day he worshipped Hashem. And dafka nesach, which is wine, which is a sign of joy and wealth. It's not like basic sustenance, like bread. Every single day, he brought an offering to God. Every day. And if you really want to understand how Yaakov could survive, could retain his full allegiance to Hashem, while at the same time giving honor to Esav, if you could understand that, you could understand, it's the same as understanding how the water of the Jordan runs through the Kinneret. You would think that living under the dominion of Esav, and the Medrash isn't talking about Yaakov, it's talking about us. They also lived under Esav. Rome, the West, it's the world we live in. So you might say to yourself, how could a Jew live under the dominion, under the domain of Esav, and give honor to it, and live subjugated by it, and still retain a strong Jewish identity, and still retain a strong allegiance to God? That's impossible. Answer, daily service to God, represented in this midrash by Nisachim, can do it. And if you understand that, if you understand that daily service to God means that people are still, first and foremost, dedicated to God, even though they're living in the context, surrounded by Esav, it doesn't make sense to you that the Jews will survive that way? Look at the Jordan. That doesn't make sense either. I think that's what this midrash is saying. And it's dafka spinning off of this issue of Sukkot by Sukkot. That Yaakov understood that there are times when the danger of the enemy is in living under his dominion, in his culture, and taking in his value system. And that we have to retreat into ourselves, into our own families, into our own communities, and we have to reaffirm, in our own service to Hashem, we have to reaffirm our value system, which is different. We need to do that. what's specifically being discussed here is an approach to wealth, an approach to physical things, to material wealth. And many of the midrashim about Yaakov and Esav deal with material wealth. Esav's desire for material wealth and Yaakov's looking further into the future. It's not necessarily Yaakov's shunning of material wealth. That's not a message that comes across. But Yaakov looking further into the future and seeing more big picture. Things that are beyond his lifetime. We've talked about a few of them. This approach, it's very hard to overcome the Western value system regarding wealth. It's like people say, well, money can't buy happiness. And every one of us thinks, yeah, try me. Like, I'm willing to be a test case. See if it does. We very much want to be wealthy. And some people want it more than others. And it's a goal, it's something, we work towards, and it's something that it's very, very easy to become obsessed with. We want wealth. And what we really have to learn from Yaakov is that the real... Everything okay over there? Yeah. The real lesson we have to learn from Yaakov is that the real question we have to ask ourselves always about our material possessions is, what are they for? They're a means. They're not an ends in and of themselves. And having a healthy approach to wealth is very, very important. And this is something that I want to talk a little bit about, and that's why I shared this whole piece of Torah with you. Rashi has a beautiful line in his Perush. Rashi actually has a Perush to Pirkei Avot, just like he has a Perush in Gemara. Rashi wrote a Perush to Pirkei Avot. It appears in the Vilna Shas, where Pirkei Avot appears. Rashi has a great line. On the famous line in Pirkei Avot, Ezu Ashir Asamech B'Chelko. Who is a wealthy person? One who is happy with his lot, with what he has, with what God gave him. So Rashi has an interesting turn of phrase. He says, Yeshlo chirut nefesh. A person has a freedom of the soul. Nefesh often refers more also like to the emotions. It's like an emotional freedom. V'leiv tov, and a good heart. B'oto chelek she'akadosh baruch hu mazmin lo. With that portion that God gave him. A freedom. There's a freedom in being satisfied with what you have. There's a freedom in it. Because people who always want more, and there are very, very wealthy people who always want more, and there are not so wealthy people who always want more, and there's a lot of people who they're constantly, how can I make more money, and how can I get more? And a lot of it comes from messages from the outside of what other people around us have, and not from the inside of what our needs are. And that feeling of always wanting more is debilitating emotionally and existentially in terms of how we view ourselves and our lives. You guys are starting out. You haven't started your careers yet. But this is something that you will see, and you will at times feel drawn into and sucked into. This feeling of more because that's what you do and that's what you need, and it's connected to what your inner value is. That's a message that's out there. And there's no chirut nefesh in feeling that way. There's a real freedom in letting go of that necessity. Of course you need to have your needs filled. You need to live comfortably. And you want your family to be comfortable. You want whoever you marry to be comfortable. You want your kids to be comfortable and not be, and not feel needy in any way. You don't want to be needy. I'm not talking about being needy here. Wealth is a very, very good thing. That's a bracha from Hashem. I'm talking about the attitude to the wealth. The attitude to it. It very much has to, we have to develop a yeshli kol mentality. The same thing applies with Shabbos. It's a funny line in the Torah. We say it all the time. You ever think about it? Sheshet amim tavod, ve'asita, what's the next words? Kol malachtecha. Really, in 6 days, every week, I do all of my work? Why doesn't it just say, Sheshet amim tavod, ve'asita malachtecha? You do your work. And then on Shabbos, you take a rest. Why does it say Vasita kol malachtecha? What does that word kol tell me? Work 6 days and do all your work. I don't know, I didn't finish. Never finished. Proof of that is when I get up Sunday morning, I got more to do. I think that the Pesach's telling us an attitude. When Shabbos comes, you're supposed to let it go. And have that same feeling you would have if you were totally done. You know when you're totally done, like you have a big paper to write, and you're finished, and you're done, and it's chirut nefesh, freedom. We have to, if our values are in the right place, Shabbos comes and chirut nefesh. Whatever I did, that's kol malachtecha, I'm done. If we can cultivate that emotion, we're on the right track. I think that's what the Torah is telling us. Let's see the kol malachtecha. Really feel it. You're supposed to feel that when you finish working at the end of Friday, you're done. And you have that same feeling as though, you've handed in the paper. Yeah, Shabbos ends and you're going to go, okay, fine, now I got to get back to work. But if you don't feel that way, you're going to spend all Shabbos thinking about work. See the kol malachtecha. And a big, you guys have all heard the expression midlife crisis, right? People midlife. And very often the cliche, and with every cliche becomes a cliche because a lot of people go through that, is that people have a sense of what they want. This is the standard midlife crisis. People have this drive to get certain things that they have defined as what they want. And then they realize at some point that they have everything they want, and they're still not happy. And that's what happens when you have a yesh li rav mentality. Because it's supposed to, still not happy. Yesh li kol, chirut nefesh. It's a great Hasidic story. It's actually, it is a Hasidic story. It's not in any of the classic Hasidic story collections. It's a story that Shlomo Carlebach used to tell a lot. And I've heard it a few times. I heard a few different versions of it. Because every time he told the story, it came out a little bit different. It's a great story. It goes something like this. There's a Rebbe who used to visit this town. He would travel around and give shiurim, and he was in a certain town. And of course he was an important Rebbe, so all the important people in the community come out, and the whole shul is packed with everyone there to hear the Rebbe speak. And the Rebbe looks down and he sees all the important fat cats sitting in the front row, and they're like, they're happy with themselves that they're in the front row at the big evening when the visiting Rebbe's there. And he's looking at them and he's thinking, I want to see someone who's real. Who here is real? Saw the Rebbe speak. When he finishes speaking, he starts wandering around the shul. He goes into the boiler room in the shul. He's like walking around, and he sees a man sitting there, saying Tillim, sitting next to the boiler. He says, "Who are you?" He says, "I'm Moshe." Moshe. He says, "What do you do?" He says, I work in the shul a little bit. I sometimes carry water, menial jobs." The Rebbe is then his shamashim come and say, "Rebbe, we have to go. So and so wants to meet with you." So he goes away. But he really wants to talk to this Moshe. Seems like a very real Jew. What the Rebbe is looking for, somebody he can talk to. He seems very intense, saying his Tillim. After the Rebbe finishes meeting, he goes back to the room. Moshe is gone. The Rebbe was going to be in the town for a few days, and he decided he would go look for this Moshe. So he's wandering around, can't find him anywhere. The Rebbe is going for a walk, looking for Moshe, wandering up and down the street, thinking. He wanders to the edge of town. As he gets to the edge of town, he sees off in the distance a little shack, a broken down shack. And there's a light on. And he hears faintly singing coming from the shack. He walks over to this shack. And, the singing is getting louder and louder. It's a lot of voices singing. And the sun is setting. Goes over to the window, sort of rubs out the fog in the window, and he looks inside. And inside he sees this Moshe standing in the middle of a circle of people dancing around. He's holding a cup like this. And they're dancing around it, joyously, singing, smiling. So the Rebbe knocks on the door. And everyone quiets down. After a couple seconds, Moshe opens the door. Rebbe, what do I owe the honor? He says, no, the honor is mine. I've been looking for you. I wanted to talk to you. Talk to me? He says, yeah. He says, before we get to anything else, what is this? Why were you standing in the middle of a circle of people, holding a cup, and everyone's dancing and singing? What are you celebrating? He says, Rebbe, come inside. Closes the door. He says, let me tell you a story. Let me tell you what I'm celebrating. He said, I'm very poor. I have 8 children. I have menial jobs, as I told you. I barely make ends meet. And my kids, sometimes I can't feed them. And my wife, she's always complaining. She's always crying. She's always miserable. And my kids, they're crying, they're hungry. I come home, it's a miserable experience. So every night I'm lying in bed, I'm listening to my kids moaning and groaning. My wife's telling me they're hungry. So what do I do in the middle of the night when I can't sleep? Every night I run over to the shul, middle of the night. I run up to the Aron Kodesh with the shul, and I pour out my heart to Hashem, and I cry to Hashem, and I say, Hashem, please, just give me, just once, I should be the lucky one. Give me a few hundred rubles, that I shouldn't be the poor one anymore, that I should be the lucky one. Hashem, just a few hundred rubles, you have a lot of rubles, give me a few hundred rubles. And I cry. And then when I finish crying and I'm more tired, I go home. Finally everyone's fallen asleep and I go and I get some sleep. And I've been doing this every night. For months and months and months, even years. Every night I run to the shul, there no one's bothering me, and there I cry out my heart to Hashem. And I got to tell you, a long time ago, Rebbe, I stopped believing that my tefillahs did anything. But it's what I was doing every night, so I did it. I run to the shul. And then one night, a few nights ago, I was coming out of the shul after crying out to Hashem, and there on the sidewalk, right in front of the shul, was a package, brown paper. I pick it up, and I unwrap it, and it's a stack of money. 2,000 rubles. Could you imagine, Rebbe? God heard my prayers. He heard my tefillahs. I took the money. It's a big nace. It's a big miracle. I'm not going to tell anybody. And I ran home. And I came into the house. And I was so happy. And I slept. And the next morning I got up. And I told my wife that I found some money. I didn't tell her everything. I told her we have some money. I got some food for the children. And everything was good. And then I go out into the street. And I hear a whole tumult. Whole tumult's going on. Poor woman in town. It's the wife of the mayor, the tailor. Sarah, the wife of the mayor, the tailor, was crying and screaming because her husband, Mayor, had passed away a few weeks ago, and she had nothing. She has mouths to feed. And the community got together and took up a collection and collected 2,000 rubles to give her so that she could support herself for a while. And it hit me. And she had lost the money. She said someone took the money, she couldn't find it. And I realized right there that the money that I found was her money. And I got angry. Lying in bed. And I said, Kodesh Baruch Hu, I'm not giving it back. I davened all these months. I asked you for money, you left money there. Was this some kind of cruel joke? Try to make me feel like you answered my tefillahs and you didn't? You want to give her 2,000 rubles? Give her a different 2,000 rubles. I'm not giving it back. I'm keeping it. And I cried. And I fell asleep. woke up. I felt terrible. Everyone was still screaming about Sarah and her money. My wife started kretching to me. That night, when I went to sleep, I had a dream. And in the dream, I heard Hashem's voice. God's voice. Rebbe, have you ever heard God's voice? I heard God say to me, Maishala, it's not your money. Give it back. Maishala, this is God. It's not your money. It's Sarah's. God's voice, man. I got up. I was so happy. I heard God's voice. I grabbed the money. I ran to Sarah's house. I started screaming, Sarah, Sarah, wake up, I found your money. She came there, she said, really? Maishala. I gave her the money. She was so happy. I was so happy. And Rebbe, that's why I'm celebrating tonight. Do you know what it is to hear the voice of Hashem? Do you know what it is to hear that God's talking to you? It's the greatest joy in the world, man. So that's what I'm celebrating tonight. I'm celebrating that I heard the voice of Hashem. Speak to me, Moshe. There's a lot of different perushim you can give to this story. My take on the story is that sometimes when you're not happy, and you have an idea of what it is you want that will make you happy, you don't realize that there's something deeper that you want. And it's easier to think about that thing because it's more tangible. It's easier to think about the fact that 2,000 rubles will make him happy. This is a person who what he really wanted, he wanted to feel a special relationship with Hashem. He wanted to feel special. He still got his money problem. He'll deal with those. But sometimes what we think we want, what we've told ourselves we want, or what the world around us has told us we want, sometimes what we really want is something else. And you don't want to wake up midlife and realize it. Yesh li Rav, yesh li Kol. There's two approaches. So, yeah, we have possessions. We've defined our quality of life by how we've been raised, the homes we've been raised in, what type of wealth we've been raised with. And we have a fear. We all live in a fear of living below a certain standard. It's a real fear. We all have it. It's a fear. A fear that certain creature comforts will be taken away from us. We won't be able to afford them. We won't have them at some point. Guys, you got to have those things, but that's not what's really important. That's not a way to make your choices in life. You make choices, you have to feed your family. And again, I'm all for wealth. Wealth is a good thing. That's a different shear. It's about the attitude to it. So, Yesh li Rav, that's what the society's telling us. Of course you can always have more. Of course you can always have more. More is good. Why not? Sure. And when it looks like Esav's values look kind of similar to ours sometimes, and it's comfortable and we get along, it's very easy to forget who we are and what we really want. The Maishala in us. What we really, really want. So, there's nothing you can do about it now. You're not about to make major changes in your life. But as a way of thinking, as a thought to remember, Yesh li Rav, Yesh li Kol. Money, possessions, they're not an end in and of themselves. They're not a definition. They're not a definition of happiness and a definition of success. They're a means, an important means, but a means to achieving the state of Yesh Li Kol. One very last vart. In Pirkei Avos, right before the famous line of Ezu Asher Samech L'Chalko, which is in the first mission of the fourth parak, at the end of the third parak, a few mishnayos back, Rabbi Akiva lists a number of things that help other things. He says, Masoret Siag LaTorah, the tradition is a fence around the Torah. And then he says, after this one, he says, like, for instance, Siag LaChochma Shtika, that's a famous one. That silence is a fence around wisdom, protects wisdom. And he says here, one of the things in the list is Ma'asrot Siag LaOsher. That Meiser, giving Meiser, is a fence around wealth. Because there is a famous idea in Chazal, it's mentioned many times, that if a person gives Meiser, they'll be rewarded with wealth. And it even says in the text in the Tanakh, B'chanuni Navazot, God says, you can test me with this. There's a very, very wealthy man in the world today named Lev Levayev. He's a billionaire. He's losing a lot of his money right now, but he's an extremely wealthy man. And he says, and he built himself up from nothing. And he says quite openly that he's always given Meiser, and he attributes his wealth to that. The fact is, if you give Meiser, Chazal tell us we don't have to look for segulas like red strings and things. This is a segula that's in Chazal. If you give Meiser, you're going to be rewarded with wealth. But I think that there's also, besides the sort of magical Meiser promise, there's something else at the very simple pshat psychological level that this means. If a person gives Meiser, then that means two things about his wealth. Number one, he understands that he's supposed to do mitzvahs and give tzedakah and help people. But it also means that he's not all that worried about every penny. He knows that if I have this much, I can make do with 90% of that too. I'll be fine. I'm still yesh li kol. I'm still shalem even after I've given my meiser. When Yaakov, it says Yaakov was shalem even after he gave the gift to Esau, right? Shalem b'mamono. So siag, a person who's like constantly counting every penny, or is constantly looking over his shoulder to see does he have enough, does he have more than the neighbor, or how can I get more, isn't going to feel so comfortable giving away 10% of what he made. Regularly giving away 10% of what you made is a reality check. And it reminds you of where your values are. And it turns you into a sameach bechelko. So siag, in the most literal sense, masrot siag la'osher. You give meiser, it's a way of protecting the state of mind called wealth, which will be defined a few mishnayos later. It's a way of producing that state of mind. You can actually produce the state of mind, the wealth mentality, the mentality of I have enough, I'm fine, by continually giving meiser. So that's a piece of practical advice we could take with us into life. And help us have the right perspective on our possessions as we head back out into Esau's.